Welcome back, everybody, to 3 Point Lines here on the Parlay. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, my co-host, Noor Zainab, and we are back with our NBA picks for this Wednesday as we look to do much better than we did in our Tuesday picks. So I went 5 of 9 to now bring my winning percentage to 53%. It was shaky there big time. I thought I was going to only get like 3 right, but the Clippers somehow came back and covered that spread when they were down by 35. And then Portland, they were down pretty big too. I thought that was going to be an L, but they came back and they covered the numbers. So feeling pretty good considering how the night started last night with my picks. And how are you doing as of right now, Noor?
I was in the same boat. I got 5 out of 9 with you. I'm very, very grateful for my Celtics pick, which I never thought I'd be saying. They really just killed the Kings last night, and that helped me out in every single way, just because the rest of my picks didn't really come through. I thought the Golden State Warriors were going to be the Golden State Warriors of this year, and they ended up being the Golden State Warriors of like 3 years ago. So this is just the NBA. You never really know what's going to happen. I'm at a total founding 38 over 70, which is 54%. And honestly, as long as I'm above 50, I'm going to consider that a good payday.
I thought you were going to say as long as you're beating me, because right now you are beating me by one percentage. I'm 37 of 69. So yeah, that can't happen. We got to see if I can one up you here on this Wednesday. We're going to get into it, though. We have the Hornets. They lost to the Raptors. Pretty stunning. They're going to be taking on the Pacers now. The Hornets, though, despite getting blown out by the Raptors, they're 1.5 point favorites here.
Yeah, I think, but it kind of makes sense why. We mentioned already about how the NBA is just so unpredictable. We both picked the Raptors to lose last night, and they ended up having one of their most triumphant victories of the season. So that's just what happens. But for this one, I think I understand why the spread is like that, just because Indiana will be without Sabonis, Brogdon, and Turner. The Hornets might have Hayward back for this one, and they have been having a hard time shooting. We saw that against when they were going up against the Raptors last night, and they were also blown out ridiculously by the Hawks, who had been struggling prior to that. But I kind of expect this game to be the one where they turn this around. I think it'll be easy for them to go against this Pacers team, who don't really have their starting lineup together, and they just don't have the offensive power that the Hornets do. So I will take the Hornets on a back-to-back here, and hopefully they don't embarrass me like last night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will bounce back here. I think it was just a bad spot for them. I don't expect them to play as poorly as they did against the Raptors. And like you mentioned, the Pacers are going to be without a ton of players. This Hornets team, they're resilient. They know how to bounce back, especially coming off a tough loss. And they've been a good road team for the most part. So I will side with them. I think LaMelo Ball will get it going. And for whatever reason, they just couldn't hit shots against the Raptors. So I think they just had an overall off night. I don't think it's a reason to be concerned about this team. They're clearly a good team. They're clearly better than the Pacers and what the Pacers have shown us. So too many injuries for the Pacers. I expect the Hornets to bounce back. I will lay that 1.5.
Yeah, I also think they just weren't prepared for Pascal at the three, or at the point last night either. They probably weren't ready for that matchup. And I expect Kelly Oubre to have a better night tonight. So now the next game of the night, we're going to be seeing the team that stole the show last night, the LA Clippers versus the Orlando Magic, where the Magic are favored by 1 point. What do you think happens here, Luca? You took them to win last night. What do you think today?
I think this is a classic case of Vegas telling us that the Clippers coming off that high, they're going to have a very letdown spot here. And you know what? I'm actually going to buy into that. I think for as crazy as that comeback was, I don't expect them to win tonight. I think they're going to be gassed. I think Orlando, for as bad as they are, they can steal one here at home. And this reminds me of the last time the Clippers had a big comeback on the road. They exhausted themselves. They put everything into that comeback win against Philly, and then they lost the next game. So I think this will be a classic case of that happening. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the Clippers are very good. You do not want to bet against them, but I just don't like the spot for them. So I went with them yesterday. I'm going to go against them tonight, and I'll see how that fares.
Yeah, you know what? I take my words back that I said last night. This is the team that's actually facing adversity very, very well. Having your two guys go down in Kawhi and Paul George, who were, I mean, we mentioned already, who were your offensive and your defensive anchors, and you're able to keep games close, come win, stay in the playoff contention spot, and then you did what you did last night against the Washington. My only concern with last night's game is does that say more about the Wizards than the Clippers? Because they had a fantastic lead going up until halftime, and then you saw in the post game interview with Beal as well, who mentioned that he can't expect to sit and not have his bench make sure that the lead is completely closed out. And I think that's where the trouble for the Wizards comes up, where you're kind of wondering if they have the bench to solidify their spots moving forward, and that's kind of why maybe the Clippers were able to bounce back, because even if they don't have the shooting, they always will have that defense. But they didn't charge that defense up until the second half, until the starters were off and the bench had to come in. And like you mentioned, this just has not been the defensive team that we've seen them being in the weeks prior, and they kind of just turn it on and off whenever they want to, like the Raptors. In the past 3 games, they've been allowing 113 points of the opponents. So I think tonight the pattern kind of continues. Last night was a good win for them, but I'm kind of looking at it more in terms of it's more of a Wizards problem than a Clippers solution. And they've lost like 5 of their last 6 on the road before Washington. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Magic here. I think they would probably cover this well, but it should be a pretty interesting game just based off what happened last night.
Yeah, very surprised of the line, but a lot factors into it. So we'll see if Orlando does cover it or not. All right, next game we got a good one. We got the Bucks on the road taking on a good Cavs team, which is why the Bucks are only favored by 4.
Yeah, I think also the reason also might be because Giannis might or might not play, and I think that changes the outlook of the game pretty massively. I hate picking the winner, not knowing who's playing or who's not playing, because
Yeah.
it just comes down to it. You know, Giannis's presence is so important, especially against a Cavs team who are just so good at being big and defending and being in the paint and stopping you and having those turnovers. And if you don't have Giannis on that team to distract or even just take away that extra 2-man power, then it's going to be hard for the Bucks, I think. But if Jared Allen is not playing for the Cavs, that should also be another hit on them, just because he's been so amazing in his position. He's been putting up the points that they need, not just offensively, but he helps out defensively as well. But this is still a very good Cavs team, and I don't know. I think this is going to be a really, really tough one. I can see them holding the opponents back to less than 100 points, but I think I'm going to bank on this game to see that Giannis plays. Like right now, my state of mind is that Giannis will be playing today. He is
Yeah.
probable, which means that probably he plays, which is why I'll take Milwaukee. But it should be a very close game towards the very end. What do you think?
Yeah, I will take the Bucks here. I think Giannis will play. Probable usually means they are going to play. We've seen that so many times, but the Bucks have not been a good bet. I mean, 2-6 against the spread in their last 8. They are 10-6 though against the spread in their last as road favorites, so that's going well for them. But 12-12 overall against the spread this season on the road, and they've actually lost their last 3 straight on the road. So this Bucks team's in uncharted territory. Usually, this is a team that's blowing the other out, and we know how good they can be. I think the Bucks will cover here. I think they will show up. Assuming Giannis plays, he just gets everything going. Allen potentially being out is going to be huge because obviously that's going to clear up the middle for Giannis to do his thing. And hopefully his supporting cast can give him some help. You know, Middleton, some of those other guys can knock down the 3. I don't think Connaughton's playing tonight, so that's going to be big. But the Bucks do have enough where they can cover the spread. I think they will go into Cleveland and do just that. I think their defense will try to slow down Cleveland's offensive players, with Garland having an all-star type season. I mean, he's been unbelievable to watch, but I do like the Bucks here. I think this will be close, but at the end, they'll win by, I'll say like 6-10, 6-8.
I think this should be the Bucks team that we've seen in the conference finals and the finals beforehand. Just having Giannis changes the game so much. Sticking in the Eastern Conference theme, we also have the New York Knicks playing tonight against the Miami Heat, where the Heat are 6-point favorites. What do you think?
Yeah, this one's interesting. The Knicks, I feel like the Knicks are better when they're an underdog. When they're a favorite, you stay away. But when they're an underdog of 6 to like 10, you consider them here. I will go with Miami. I just like what Miami's done overall. And, if they can get the 3 ball going and their defense comes to play in this one, I think it's going to be hard for the Knicks to stay within reach. It's going to be all dependent on how RJ and Randall play. I feel like I say that with every game, but they really are that that middle of what the Knicks are. Like if they have a big game, yeah, the Knicks probably keep this one close, if not win. But if one of them struggles, that usually results in the Knicks having an off night. So I do like Miami. They've been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Even when they're not healthy, they have proven to do it with their other guys. They're so deep. They're very good defensively. They hit the three, well coached. I can go on and on and on. So I will pay the price of 6 here. I like them being at home. So I do like Miami in this spot.
Yeah, the Heat demand your attention. This is that team that's been built, that's faced, I think, probably more adversities as of late than any other team in the NBA. They still don't have Kyle Lowry in the lineup, but they've maintained their lead in the Eastern Conference, which is so impressive, especially, I think East is more aggressive than the West this year. And being able to do that, having your guys plug in and out of the lineup is a huge compliment to this team. Bam, Jimmy, Hero, Robinson, they've all been on fire. They've adopted that next man up mentality and they've really come through with it. PJ Tucker himself, like he provides great hustle and defense. We've seen what he did for the Raptors, for the Bucks, and now the same thing for the Heat. So I kind of see how he jumps from like contention to contention team, but that's what they kind of need that on their roster too. And the Knicks, on the other hand, are on a downward spiral where the Heat have been on beat all season. The Knicks have lost 4 of their last 5. And like you mentioned, I think right now you might have Kemba Walker for this game, but they've shown that this team really just relies on RJ Barrett or Julius Randle to really come through. And Randle has just not been himself. He's been disappointing. And if he's not able to pull through, this is not going to be a team that's going to have a chance. And like you mentioned, I do like the Knicks when it's a bigger spread, just because they seem to have that dog to fight back for some reason. I don't understand why, but this is a Miami Heat team and they're made to close out and to win. So I'm going to take them here. And I think it should be a pretty clean victory.
All right, we'll see if we're right with that one. And then we got the Kings taking on the Hawks. The Hawks are 9.5-point favorites here. And a big reason of that is because the Kings just got blown out of the water by the Celtics last night.
Yeah, they should have a day off today. They should not be allowed to play today. That was sad. They'll still be without De'Aaron Fox, who they pretty much rely on for their entire offensive efforts, which we saw last night. They could barely make a shot, could barely have anything going. Kings are also 1 of 7 against the spread on the road. And Hawks have somehow turned it around a little bit the past 3 or 4 games. They've been upwards bound. They'll have a 4-game winning streak coming into this. And they've also had 2 days off where the Kings are going to be on a back-to-back after getting their asses whooped. I don't know. Can I say that, Kevin? Let me know afterwards. They just got absolutely killed last night. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be the Hawks game, especially because the last time they played each other, the Hawks had no Trae Young and the Kings still had De'Aaron Fox. Hawks still won by 6. So this should be a spread that I think they should cover it comfortably. I do feel weird picking them right now because I don't know about the Hawks, but
yeah,
they should take this. They should take this. What about you?
All right, so I caution people who are going to take this pick of mine, but I'm simply going to go with the Kings here because I've realized something in the NBA. When something looks too good to be true, you usually go the other way. And being a Raptors fan probably has to do with that, where like one night a team looks great and then the next night the team looks horrible. I think somehow the Kings will bounce back here. I do not like laying this many points with a Hawks team that has been very inconsistent. I know they're coming in with a win streak, but I don't trust this team. I think for as bad as the Kings were last night, that's going to give them some motivation to not look as bad in this night. And I know De'Aaron Fox is out, but they still got guys who could fill it up. So yeah, I'm not necessarily confident with it, but I'm just going with the notion of doing the opposite when you feel like something's so obvious. So I'm taking the Kings plus 9.5. I'm not laying the points with the Hawks. I feel like the Hawks will find a way to blow this one, probably in the second half, and allow the Kings to come on in back to the game and make it an interesting one towards the fourth quarter. So, yeah, give me the Kings plus 9.5.
Honestly, we needed that pick because so far we've been agreeing on everything. So it's
Yeah,
good
that is
that you
true.
took the one that's like crazy too.
That is
Well, I'll
true.
keep my eye on that tonight. All right, another game for the night. Oh, did I say that? I did. Sorry, another game for the night is going to be Denver Nuggets and the Brooklyn Nets, where the Nuggets are favored by 2 points.
Yeah, this one's tough. You know what? I originally wanted Brooklyn, but I'm gonna switch my pick here to the Nuggets. I just feel like Brooklyn, when they have Kyrie not there, when they don't have Durant, and everything's just put on Harden's shoulders. Like I was proven wrong yesterday. He did have a good game,
Yeah.
but with how the Nets are not playing well overall, it's not a side that I want to lean on. Now, when they did get wins with just James Harden, the supporting cast was coming through, but that's not happening now. And James Harden, voiced his frustration in the press game conference when the reporters were asking him more about if he was enjoying Brooklyn than the actual game. So I think frustration is starting to build with this Nets team. I don't feel good about them right now. I think guys being out, the whole Kyrie situation, the supporting cast not living up to expectations, James Harden now being annoyed by people thinking he wants out. And I truly feel like deep down he does want out. You could tell by his body language. I just don't know if this Nets team is now the quote unquote favorite. They probably will end up proving us wrong and become that favorite over time, especially with Durant back into the lineup. But who knows how much time he's going to miss. So I'm going to go with the Nuggets here. Nets on the second night of a back-to-back. I don't like the spot for them. And Jokic has been playing out of his mind. I like the Nuggets to win this game by at least 2.
Yeah, he's not in the MVP conversation for no reason. He's been absolutely on fire, especially not having his supporting cast around him. And I do get where you're coming from. I think this game is going to be a little bit even just because both teams are going to be entering this on a back-to-back and having played their third game in 4 days. And you're only going to have one star on the floor. Nuggets will have Jokic and the Nets will have Harden. But that's also kind of why I think the Nets can take this. I think this is going to be the game for them to turn this around after last night. And the Nuggets are also traveling. So while this is a back-to-back for them, Nuggets are the only team that are going to be traveling into this one. And that I might think the fatigue factor could catch up to them just based off of Jokic playing so many minutes and them having to play so many games. And on top of that, traveling the entire time too. And I also think the Nets have the guys that they can throw at Jokic that would require his supporting cast to come through. You've got Aldridge, you have Griffin, you have James Johnson. You can kind of throw a mix of whatever you want at Jokic and have the other guys kind of try to win the game for them. And I think it's going to come down to, like you mentioned, the role players. And I think this is going to be the game where they turn this around, where they finally just click in together. It does suck based off the trade rumors. I think you're right. I think Harden has made it pretty clear that he's frustrated with Kyrie's vaccination status, which, like, at this point, anybody would be. You're dropping 30 points a night and you're losing. Like, that's not fun. But I think that this is where they are due a win. They should get this win. They're still at home. They still got Harden. He dropped 30 last night. He could do it again tonight. And if they're able to stop Jokic, then this should be a pretty good victory for them. I'm just happy that spread's close because I don't want to look stupid for this one. All right.
No, it could be a good game. I can see it going either way. That's why I had the Nets originally, but I just don't like how things have gone on with them lately. So I will go with the Nuggets, who haven't really been a safe bet either. So yeah, flip a coin on this one. Next one, we got Raptors and Bulls. DeMar DeRozan will take on his old team, which usually means he has a big night. So we'll see if that happens tonight. The Bulls are 4-point favorites.
It's so funny. I have that in my notes. I'm going to close it off by saying, DeMar, if he's playing your team when he's left your team, you're going to have a bad night. He's going to have a career night tonight. Same thing as the Nuggets and the Nets. They're both playing their third game in 4 nights. So there is that fatigue factor. But the Raptors are going to be on a back-to-back, and they're going to be flying to Chicago while the Bulls had their night off the prior night, and they're going to be sitting put in their own city. Bulls also have Levine back. DeRozan will be in this as well. And this should be a tough game to beat, a tough team to beat. I think currently, still as of right now, Barnes and Fred are listed as day-to-day, so we're not really sure what they're going to look like. But at this point, I wouldn't rely on a win or a loss depending on if they're playing or not, just because of what I saw the team look like last night. And I think Bulls are getting their pieces back together. They're getting healthier day by day. And I'm going to go with the home team because, like you mentioned, if DeRozan's going to have a game against the Raptors, just like Dwayne Casey, he has that circled on the calendar and he is dropping enough points to win that game. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a big factor you got to look at. DeRozan going up against his old team. Last game, too, Raptors kept it close, but in the fourth quarter, DeRozan went off in the fourth quarter. I can see something similar happening here. And the fact that Levine is back, that's huge. The Bulls have their big three out there. Whenever Vooch, Levine, and DeRozan all play together, they put up some pretty impressive stats, and they are tough to beat. So they're getting slowly but surely healthy. I know Caruso just went down. They're hoping to get Lonzo Ball back soon, but there's still enough there. There's enough there where I feel confident that the Bulls will cover this spread. And the Raptors playing on the second night of a back-to-back, that might be an issue here. We saw how well they played last night, but what have we learned about this Raptors team? When they play good on one night, odds are they'll disappoint you in some way on the next night or in the next game. So I think that this will be a classic case of that. But something to note here, and it was a nice surprise to see, was the bench of the Raptors really step up and play well. If they can get that same bench production tonight, this is going to be a close game, especially if Gary Trent Jr. can go off again like he did against the Hornets, and Siakam can continue to play his brand of basketball. Even without Fred and Barnes, I could still see the Raptors keeping this game close. But at the end, fourth quarter, Debo is going to go off as he's always done against any team in the NBA, not to mention this Raptors team. So I think this will be a special night for DeMar and the Bulls. They will win and cover the spread.
Yeah, I think when the spread is -4 and you have the best player on your team in Debo, you take Debo. And if you're new to sports betting, don't bet on the Raptors this year. Just wait a little bit. Let them figure this stuff out. Let's move on to the Western Conference, where we'll be seeing the Memphis Grizzlies play against the San Antonio Spurs, and they are 4-point favorites here tonight. What do you think happens there, Luca?
Yeah, this one's interesting. Vegas showing San Antonio some respect here. I know they're coming off that blowout win, but Memphis is being favored by 4. This feels like you have to take them. So I will be siding with Memphis here. They're 7-3 against the spread in their last 10, while San Antonio is just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10. So Memphis, we know what they're all about. They've been a great team overall this season. Their defense can be really good. They got John Morant. They got the pieces that they can easily go on a run here. And San Antonio, they just haven't shown me enough. They are coming off a really, really nice win, but still, this team is nowhere near from being in playoff contention. And I think Memphis is just simply the better team, and that will showcase tonight. So I do like the Grizzlies to prevail -4 against the Spurs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Murray is doing great things for the Spurs right now, but he's just gonna be no match for Morant. If Jaw's on the floor, you're gonna have a hard time containing him. And few teams can contain him, right? You really have to have a dedicated defender for Jaw to be able to stop him. And the Grizzlies might be without Desmond Bane and Brendan Clark, but I think having, like I said, Jaw on your team against the Spurs should be enough. I know yesterday was a clean break for them, but it is the Rockets. They played the Rockets, and the Rockets are just like, basement dwellers of the Western Conference and of the league pretty much. So it doesn't really mean much. And they will be on a back-to-back. So I'm going to give them the rest factor there too. I just don't think this lines up well for the Spurs. Like you said, I don't really get why the spread is too short for the Grizzlies here. It's kind of embarrassing, but they should win this pretty easily.
Yeah, we'll see. This could be another one of those curveballs, but yeah, hopefully it goes well for both of us. All right, we got the Mavericks. They're coming off getting their asses kicked against the Warriors. They're going to be taking on the Blazers.
Embarrassed us last night. Embarrassed us. I was
Can't
like,
believe I took them.
I was like, what's happening? And Porzingis was just not himself. Luca was barely himself. But you get 20 plus from Luca, and you're like, that's not Luca. But I mean, that still speaks to his greatness, right?
Yeah.
And the Blazers are, we mentioned already, like they still covered the spread against the Wolves. Anthony Edwards had to have 40 points and no assists for them to do that. And the Blazers don't have Damian Lillard yet. And I keep saying it, but I just think they're a much better team without him. You still have CJ, Norm, Simons, Nurkic to put the Mavs away. And historically, Blazers completely own the Mavs. It's just a great contest for them. So Mavs got embarrassed last night. It was a back-to-back, and they're going to be in Portland tonight too. So again, rest factor. I'm going to go with the Blazers.
Yeah.
Sue me.
No, I like it. I really like that pick. I don't like how the Mavs looked at all against the Warriors. They weren't even competitive. They got blown out by 30 plus points, and it's not going to get any easier. They're going to go to the Rose Garden, and they're going to take on a Blazers team, like you just said, has owned them a little bit over their last couple of matchups. And I really like how this Blazers team is playing right now. I know I said a while ago that this team had packed it in with Dame being out. Nobody was giving them a shot, but they're actually looking like a decent basketball team out there. And despite Edwards going off, they almost came back and beat the Wolves. So I do like them in the spot against Dallas. You got to credit Little for going off, McCollum, Simons. Those guards have been playing out of their minds. And Nurkic has been very, very impressive in the post, 20 and 14. the other night against Minnesota. So yeah, I don't think this is a good spot for Dallas whatsoever. Both teams are going to be coming in on this one on the second night of back to back. So I will favor the home team and I will take the Blazers. I think they can win this game outright. So I will take them +4 here.
Damn, I think so far we disagreed on like two, if
Yeah.
that. Let's see if the
Yeah.
next one changes this one. All right. Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz feels like they're meeting for like the 10th time this season, where the Suns are favored by 2 points. What do you think happens here? Why
I
do you think
feel
the
like the
spread?
Jazz are getting guys back, right? Or else this line
Yeah.
wouldn't be as low as it is. Honestly, I'm gonna go with the Suns. This is going to be a toss-up game, and I can't bet against the Suns right now. They are the hottest team in the NBA. I feel like they keep winning games. Doesn't matter if they're on the road, at home. It doesn't have to be pretty tonight. They just got to get the win. I know last time I did lay the number, and the Jazz almost upset them when they had nobody. But I think tonight is just going to be about them getting the job done and coming up big in the fourth quarter as they usually do. So it's going to be a great game, but I will go with the Suns here. I think they do win, and I think it's by at least 2, unless, they win by 1, but I don't see that happening. So give me the Suns.
I know I was really happy with the spread. I'm like, thank God it's not like I have to sit there and be like, who's going to cover? Who can have the better points tonight? It makes sense too because Utah's not going to have Gobert or Mitchell, and Suns are not going to have McGee, Ayton, Crowder, Campaign, or Abdel Nadir, which makes sense why the spread is kind of small. But Utah will, like you said, they will have Mike Conley back, they will have Ingles back, and Bogdanovich back. So they're getting their role players back together. It's just stars that aren't there. But with this Utah team, you've seen that their role players come through. That's the reason why they stay in games and they win games. But I think that, like you mentioned, the Suns will still have CP3. They will still have Booker. They will still have Cam Johnson and Bridges. And I just believe in the duo of CP3 and Booker. They haven't lost many games this year. I don't see them losing this one, especially to a team without their 2 starters. So yeah, give me the Suns. Wow, we're
Again, a
very
game that feels too good to be true. Yeah, we're taking the obvious picks, I feel. So hopefully that goes well for us. If not, then you got to just do the opposite. Whenever you feel good about a pick, you got to go the opposite way. So we'll see what happens with that. But hey, listen, that's going to conclude our picks. Best of luck to those of you who do take our picks or bet on your own games. Hope you guys can pick some winners. And yeah, we'll be back at it again tomorrow. This is 3 Point Lines on the Parlay. Thanks for watching. Good luck with your bets.